My name is the Joker, and what I do, I take everything and I win. Wherever they place me, I will fit. So if you are playing cards and you get me, I can replace the queen, the king, the ace. I can be anything you want me to be. And our subject today is about taxes. And when we are speaking about taxes, the guys who are doing tax evasions and they are playing with taxes, they can make their income appear wherever they want it to be. They can make their profit appear generated from wherever source they want. They understand how to make their revenue and profit and cash like the Joker fit anywhere in the world where there's zero tax. Our subject is very interesting. Why? When we speak about money, money is very interesting. They said money, when it will go, it will open the way for you in life. All of us, we love money. We like more. Anyone will say we'd like less money? No, always we like more money. However, at certain point in time, money will be just an illusion. What's the meaning of an illusion? It will be only a number that you have inside the bank. If you don't have so much money, you are trying to get more money. But if you have a lot of money, if you have millions or billions, now you are not concerned anymore if you are actually making more money or making less money, but you just want to make sure that no one is taking money from you. So if you have 5 billion, you say, what about 11? What about 12? It's only a number, it's only an illusion. And because only it's a number and illusion, you are not concerned anymore about that number, but you are more concerned to make sure you are playing the game and you are increasing that number higher and higher and higher. And this is why when we are speaking about tax fraud, who is doing most of the tax fraud? They are not these individuals who are earning 5 dirhams, 20 dirhams, 7,000, 20,000. They are these guys who are making billions. First, let's understand why these individuals who are making so much money are doing tax fraud. Now, if you don't make so much money, you don't pay so much taxes. So you look at your income and you look at your revenue, you look at your operation, you say, I'm paying a very small amount of tax. You are not so much concerned to say, oh, I'm going to do the whole fraud, I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to risk my life and risk my business for just doing fraud to lose or to save this small amount of money. But if you are running a big business, and by the end of the year you discover that you have around 300 million you have to pay as tax, you are going to be concerned about it. Because if someone can come and they say, well, you can follow the rules. Look, we are not saying you are going to manipulate the rules. You can follow the rules, but you will be able actually to reduce your taxes from 300 million to 200 million. But you give me 10 million for me to do the process. You say, great, I would like to do that. And this is exactly number one, why someone will go to do tax fraud. Because they have a lot of tax to pay and they want to reduce the tax amount. This is reason number one. Reason number two, because they can afford it. If you don't earn so much money, you can't actually afford all this money to all these tax consultants. What? They call themselves tax consultants. Because they understand all the gaps in the tax systems all over the world. And they understand how they can move your money from one country to offshore account, to this account, to that business. And that way it looks like you are not generating so much money, so you don't have to pay so much taxes. But for us as small businesses, as individuals that are not earning so much money, it's so expensive for us to use their services. Now think about it. Why we are charging taxes? What is the main idea for charging taxes? They say taxes is not something new. They used to charge taxes in the old days in Egypt. Everyone, farmers, they harvest and at the end of the time they pay taxes. In the old days, they say if you don't pay your taxes, sometimes the punishments in some country is capital punishment. Tax is very important thing for you to pay. Because if you don't pay taxes, the meaning the government will not have enough money to do spending, the meaning the community will suffer. So you are not stealing from someone, you are stealing from our community. This is why tax is something very important. But tax fraud is on the rise. They say the amount of tax that these actually rich billionaires, they were able to hide from us, accounting for more than 600 billion US dollars. This is how much tax they didn't pay. Oh my God. We're speaking about $600 billion. And it's increasing day and night. But we need to understand, what do we mean by tax fraud? Tax fraud is about someone taking an income or revenue or money that he had to pay on a certain amount of taxes and finding a way for him to actually move this money somewhere, or find a method for him to hide this money from being reported, or finding a way for him to actually get rid of this money under his name, so in that way it will appear when he is filing his taxes that he should not pay taxes on this. That's exactly what tax fraud. And when we see this 600 billion fraud, and we want to understand where it's happening all over the world, we can see something very interesting. Around 188 billion tax fraud happening in US. In China, 66 billion. You can imagine. When we look at Japan, we look at India, we look at France, at Germany, this is the breakdown for some of this, fraud that's happening. 600 billion. Unbelievable. So what we need for us as individuals working in accounting, in finance, individuals working in government. Today here in UAE, we have the Federal Tax Authority, and they are responsible to ensure that individuals who are running businesses here, they are first collecting VAT if they have to. And it's not only collecting VAT. They are going to pay the government for the VAT. Because imagine if they collect the VAT and they don't pay. It's a big issue. So how can we be able to find these individuals, analyze? They say in the world we are living in, you can't do this manually anymore. The amount, the accounts, the channels, all this is so complicated. You need to use a certain software, a certain way for you to be able to do it in a smart way rather than the hard way. They say something very interesting, that when we are speaking about tax fraud, it's massive. It's not like any other kind of fraud. It's even hard to create reports to amount for these taxes that's happening. Why? When we speak about any kind of fraud related to someone misappropriating assets, manipulating financial statements, doing corruption, we believe that these individuals are bad. We believe that these individuals are actually criminal. But when we see who's actually doing all this tax fraud, these are the guys that we admire, right? We can see they are actually famous celebrities are doing all this tax fraud. And we are wondering, what kind of action government are taking against them or regulators? We discover in most of the cases, because these guys are very well known and these guys are very critical for certain operation all over the world, they only will pay fine, right? So rather than going to prison for doing tax, they are actually paying fine. Rather than actually going to prison, they are actually paying fine. Very interesting. So these guys, they know. Let's hire a tax consultant. He will manipulate the books. He will try to hide it. If government will uncover that, we will pay a fine. If government will not uncover that, we are okay. We move ahead with it. This is why we need to ensure, as regulators, as government, that we are taking action against individuals who are doing fraud. Because if they know the only thing is they are gonna have to pay fine, it's easy. They have a lot of money already. It's not a big issue for them. But when we are speaking about fraud, we are speaking here about how small even individuals are doing fraud. Like what? The minute they implemented VAT in UAE and they say, we are going to start charging what? VAT on cigarettes. How much is the VAT on cigarettes? 100% VAT on cigarettes. What happened? Everyone started thinking. They are going to implement the VAT rules on this date. So what can I do? I can go to the supermarket that I use to buy cigarette ones. And I say, hey, here's 10,000 for the next 5 years. You just get me the cigarettes, put them in your shop. And I will actually pay for them. But listen, I'm not going to give you the 10,000 now. What I will do, I will sign an agreement with you that I will give you the money. But get the cigarettes and I will come get it from you without paying taxes. Keep it on the side for me. This is my cigarettes. And every year, by the beginning of the year, I give you 2,000 and you give me the cigarettes. No issue. You can even charge me more for it. You can add 20% or to it. I'm okay. But I don't want to pay the 100%. Or some individuals, they say, would you like to get cigarettes without having to pay the 100% on it? All right. So when I'm coming to Dubai, I will bring with me some cigarettes. I give it to some of my friends. My friends will tell you, if you would like some cigarettes, you go to this guy, you get the cigarette, and you get it with additional only 20% rather than the 100%. Or some shops, they are coming and selling cigarettes. Some for the general public, and some cigarettes are hidden on the side. They are for their friends who will come and buy. And we have all this drama happening in the cigarette world. This is why the government said, no, 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 no. We need to come and create a system where we have a digital tax system to understand the minute the cigarettes came to the border, these are the same cigarettes that the wholesaler is selling to the retailer. These are the same cigarettes the retailers are selling to the customers. And this is the same cigarette we are charging actually VAT on. We need to actually track this tax fraud. Because individuals, they came up with so many innovative ways to say, how can we avoid paying these taxes? And that's a major challenge. Not only that, the government, they say, we need to make sure that we have punishment. So they say, when you are speaking about, VAT, how much is the punishment? Is it 100%? Is it 200%? Is it 500% when you do fraud? This is where they implement system in place to ensure that if you do a fraud, you understand the punishment is severe. So that will stop some individuals from doing it. So now let's understand the principle of tax fraud. Because some individuals, they say, no, 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 what I'm doing is not fraud. If a customer will come and he say, I would like an invoice with VAT, I give him an invoice with VAT. If he said, I don't want an official invoice, I will not charge him VAT. Where is the harm in that? No issue. So I have two books now. One book for customer with no VAT, one book for customer with VAT. Is this okay? Of course, this is not okay. But look how these guys are thinking. Some individuals, even in UAE, they created two companies. They say, this company registered as VAT, this is not registered as VAT. Which company you would like to deal with? We do business. It's easy, simple. So not complicated, right? So when they come to take action, as a government, they discover there's tax fraud, they just take action against that company. Our company who's paying VAT is okay. These guys who are operating and running the show, remember, so many individuals who are living here in UAE, they used to live in their countries where they were actually paying tax for years. And they learned all the tricks. And they say, let's bring all these tricks here because this is a new market. And this is where the Federal Tax Authority, they are trying to identify and look for it. For example, someone is taking money from customers without charging their VAT and they are depositing the money in the bank. This is where the Federal Tax Authority, if they see money coming to the bank and there is no actual VAT being on it, they wonder what's happening, how all this money coming and there is no VAT. It looks like you are taking cash without actually issuing invoices for this VAT, for this service transaction. Every individual who is trying to play the game with the VAT is trying to figure out what is the new game that we need to play. So let's understand something very important. We have three terms. The first term called tax evasion. What's the meaning of tax evasion? Tax evasion that you are gonna run away from paying your taxes. You are gonna try to do tricks. You are gonna try to play games to avoid paying taxes? No. To reduce your taxes illegally. So you are gonna actually not report certain income. One example for it. Or another example, you are gonna add expenses to appear that you have so much expenses so you don't have enough income to make the payment. Another way for it, you are gonna actually not report certain revenue you are generating from certain businesses. So you are gonna try to find a way which is illegal to reduce your taxes. If you do that, for example, in US, and they discover that you are reporting your taxes and you are doing tax evasion, there's a punishment. The punishment is $100,000 and sometimes prison time. Now, some individuals, they say, what about not filing the actual tax return itself? Well, it's interesting. In some countries like US, if you don't file the tax return for every year you don't file the tax return, sometimes the punishment will be 1 year in prison. So 10 years you don't file, 10 years in prison. Then we need to discuss how much you didn't file and how much the amount that you have to pay. So the worst thing is not to file your tax return. The second worst thing is to file your tax return late because now you have to pay the fine plus the actual tax that you own. But the minute you file the tax late, they want to understand why you filed the tax late. Maybe you don't have the record, yes, or maybe you are trying to think what you need to report and how you need to report. So maybe you are doing fraud. The worst thing to happen to you anywhere in the world, for someone knocking on your door, the tax man saying we would like to audit your books. Because sometimes you can be making a mistake. Sometimes you will be actually doing an actual tax fraud. So now, if the government or the federal authority or an investigator is knocking on your door and saying you are doing tax evasion, how they can identify if what you did is an actual mistake, maybe you didn't understand the rules or regulation, or they need to decide that actually the action you did is considered tax fraud. What do you think is the idea? Based on what they will determine. This is a mistake, because sometimes tax can be complex. Sometimes when they are speaking about VAT, they say there are certain things you can charge VAT on, certain things they are exempted, certain things you have to report it. And when, at the beginning it was easy, right? At the beginning when we look at it, it's easy. You charge 5% on everything you are going to charge customer on, and anything you are going to actually buy and you are going to pay 5% on, you are actually deducted from the amount that you charge customer, and you report it. Then they say, what about this is exempted, this is not exempted, this is you can account for it, this is you can't account for it. Now, are you going to consider the new laptop that you bought for the business is for the business, or it's for your own personal use because you are using it home, but actually you are doing work on it? So how you are going to account for all that? You are a sole business, you go to have a cup of coffee. Is this cup of coffee that you are having, that you are paying VAT on it, is actually what? Is actually for business purposes, so you can reduce it from the amount of the VAT that you are going to pay. All these questions now you need to ask. And sometimes it's complex. If you don't hire any of these tax agents, you are going to do it on your own, and sometimes you make a mistake. So the government said it's very easy. If you want to report your VAT, you have two options. The first one, you are going to actually report the VAT on your own. If you report the VAT on your own, and you are the person who is filing the VAT, if there is any mistake, we go after you. But if you hire a tax agent that went through the examination, and he is now authorized to actually help you in filing your tax, if they will file your taxes because they understand how to do it in the right way, and they make a mistake, we go after them. But of course, you have to pay them money, because now they are taking the risk and they are responsible for filing that tax. Now let's say the situation where you file the tax yourself. The government is going to go after and say, okay, did you do a mistake, or you were intentionally trying to hide the taxes? Based on what they understand, this is a mistake or this is intentional. Very simple thing, based on a very important word called intention. Based on your intent, which is how you feel in your heart and how you feel inside your mind when you are filing these taxes. Were you really trying to deceive, or were you just trying to say, okay, I really don't understand how to do it. Is it this way or that way? I think it's this way, and then you discover it's wrong because you don't have enough knowledge and understanding of the tax policy and procedure. Now, for me, how as a government I can identify that? Very simple. There is a guy here in UAE. He said, oh my God, they are creating now VAT taxes. It's going to be complex for me. So I asked him why. He said, do you know what I'm currently having? I have 6 books. I have 1 book for the bank, 1 book for the investors, 1 book for the accountant, 1 book for actually my employees, and 1 book for me to understand how to run the business. Now I need to create another one for VAT authority. So if a guy is already preparing himself to have different set of books to ensure that he will actually manipulate the process and do tax fraud, do we consider it a mistake? No. So for me, if I come and I discover that you are actually planning to do tax fraud, it's not a mistake. Or if you are actually trying to hide certain income coming from certain area, or you are trying to avoid, or you are not issuing the invoices itself with the VAT on it, that way you are actually doing fraud. So I need to see, is it happening as a mistake, or is it actually done with intention? You understand the process and you are trying to manipulate the process. You have something and you structure something inside your business to avoid paying these taxes. So this is number 1 when we speak about tax evasion. Now let's speak about second one, tax avoidance. What's the meaning of tax avoidance? Tax avoidance, it's a legal way for you to reduce the amount of income, amount of tax that you are going to pay on your income or on your operation. Is it completely legal? The answer, yes, it's completely legal. Now, some individuals, they say, but is it ethical? Well, the government said that you have certain provisions. If you do this, you can reduce the tax. But if you use them, it looks like you are not paying taxes to the government. But what about the government? The government really needs the money for us to improve the society, to build the street, to do public education. Yes, but as long as the government says that you have these provisions, you are entitled to it. So that means if you use them, you are not in violation of law. It's okay for you to use them. These are the advantages of doing business. You can take them to your advantage. It's okay. You can reduce your taxes legally. Interesting. So tax evasion is illegal, tax avoidance is legal. Now we come to a very interesting term. What is that term? We call it tax planning. So this is completely different than these two other terms. Tax planning is, before you start doing the operation, you go and find a tax consultant and you tell him, listen, I don't want to pay taxes. Excuse me? You don't want to pay taxes? No. Or I want to reduce the amount of tax that I'm going to pay to the minimum level. Can you tell me the right structure that I can structure my business in, where I will be able to reduce this amount of tax legally and at the same time with no one questioning my operation? Remember, it's not only legal, because sometimes you can do it legally, but someone will question your operation. How come that your business is actually in Dubai and you are making the money in Dubai and you are making the sales in Dubai, but actually you are actually sending all the money and creating all the invoices from, for example, Nigeria? It doesn't make sense. Your business here, the invoice coming from Nigeria. How you are operating? Oh yeah, because the invoice is coming from Nigeria and we are operating in Nigeria, we don't charge taxes in VAT. Excuse me, but you have your office here and you are doing the services here. So it's not about understanding how to do it. It doesn't make sense. Tax is two things. First, it should make sense. Second, it should be legal. So these experts, they will try to think about what are the ways for us to reduce or avoid these taxes. So look what they say. They say to some corporations, the way to do it is the following. You are major, for example, let's say organization offering furnitures. Example, furnitures. You are something similar to all these big organizations where they have different kind of furnitures and different kind of brands. And you have stores all over the world. Now these stores all over the world, they send you portion of their profit or revenue to your head office, and let's say your head office somewhere in Europe. Now based on the location where you are in Europe, you have to pay portion of that money coming as taxes to that government. So you say, how can I plan in a way that I don't have to pay taxes? They say very simple. All the money coming from all these offices that you have, or all these licenses or branches or franchises that you have, you send it actually to that country in Europe. Then that country in Europe will go and send it to a company that created in Bermuda or Panama or any of these tax haven countries, where actually, why this transaction is happening? Because your head office, they had to pay licensing fee, they have to pay money related to the patent, they have to pay royalties to this major organization. So in that way, how much taxes you are going to pay in Europe? Zero. How much taxes you are going to pay here? Zero. Because the money is generated here, correct? But the money is sent as a revenue to your head office. Your head office is not going to actually charge anything. He's going to send this money to this other offshore account that's existing in another country that's actually not charging taxes or charging minimum taxes. Once you build the right structure, no one will question you because this is the right structure. We decided to create our organization. It's going to be in this country. And this organization is charging, the fees to our head office for using this license. Who is the owner of the license? It's not the company in Europe. The owner of the license is the company in this offshore account that's owning of this offshore account. And this is the structure. How interesting. This is if you are operating as a corporation. What if you are a multi-billionaire person and you want to avoid paying taxes personally? You don't have, you are generating personally the income. So they say, no, it's easy. What we will do, we will go and create an offshore account for you in one of these countries. And all the revenue that you are going to make and the income that at the end you have to pay taxes on it, you are going to give it as a gift. What's the meaning gift? When you give a gift to someone, is it your money anymore? No. So once you go give your money as a gift to someone in that country where he got an account, which is of course under your name, but it's not under your actual name, because they can have so many structures where they create someone where he actually will create the account, but you have the right over the accounts. So it's your money, but it's not listed legally as your money, and it's somewhere outside there where it's actually no one can say it's your money, and you are giving away all this money for free. So every year you will give around 300 million for free as a gift. Who will do that? But they say, I have the right, based on the rules, that I am allowed to give maximum of 300 million as a gift, which is a certain portion of my income. And I can do it in the right structured legal way. That's tax planning. You understand exactly what is the right structure to do that. Now remember, everyone who is doing operation, not only individuals and corporations, any business, they try to think in a creative way, how can I avoid paying taxes? Why? Because they say, I have so much taxes I am paying not only to government because I'm doing businesses. Think about the airline. When airlines are flying from Europe to countries outside Europe, what European Union will say you have to pay? They say you have to pay taxes for the pollution you are creating. Based on what? Based on how far you are flying. So give an example. If a flight is flying from France all the way to go to Malaysia or to go to Australia, they will account how much is the flight. The flight is 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever. Based on that, they account the distance. How much is the distance they are flying? Based on every mile or based on that distance, they will actually charge them taxes. So now airline, they say, if we are paying taxes based on the distance, what about being clever? What's the meaning of being clever? Easy. We fly, rather than go directly to Malaysia, we fly and go land in, for example, Dubai. And we go from Dubai and continue to Malaysia. So we only have to pay taxes for the trip from France to where? To Dubai. The rest is not required because it's not flying from European Union or to European Union. You restructure the business to be able to take advantage of the situation. Again, from legal standpoint, we are not saying you are doing tax fraud, because you are understanding how to bring all these experts where they create the right structure for you to be able to run your business and to be able to reduce the amount of tax that you are doing. But think about it in reality. In reality, what you are doing, in reality, you are telling the society that I have a way to be able to not pay these taxes, and these taxes that for you as a rich man you have billions are very essential for the government to use for them to be able to do what? To be able to support all these individuals who got a little bit money or sometimes they are unemployed. It's for the government to be able to build that country. Now the interesting question here is, why some countries, they go and tell all these big major corporations that no issue, come to us and we don't charge you taxes. We don't want taxes from you. So you wonder, how come some organizations or some countries, they are allowing this to happen? And the answer is very simple. Because if you as a country charging so much taxes, what's going to happen? First, these corporations are so smart. They are going to find a way for them to channel the money. And at the end, they are not going to pay the taxes. Or they will decide to move their whole operation outside your country. So here is a very interesting story between what's happening in France and what's happening in UK. Once France said, we are going to go over these individuals who are going to who are doing tax fraud, and we are going to make sure that everyone is paying taxes, and they increase the tax amount. And in UK, they said, no, as long as you follow certain process and as long as you have different accounts, you can actually come do the operation and then you can move the money to offshore account and you don't have to pay taxes for us. So many of the organizations moved their operation from France to UK. So they create a job in UK. And because they create a job in UK and individuals, they have more money. Individuals, they spend more. And because individuals, they spend more, the economy improved. Compared to all these individuals who are sitting in France and they are wondering, okay, I am actually not generating business. So what happened? The unemployment rate went up. More employees, they don't have companies to work for. So they decided to travel anyway to UK to find job because more businesses are there. So there was a big movement between all these countries in Europe that they are charging taxes to all these companies where they allow these organizations to operate and reduce the amount of tax they charge. The tax story is interesting because if you operate as a corporation in the US, you have to pay around 35% of your income as tax. And all the big major organizations, they are not doing that. They are figuring out exactly how they can plan for their taxes. They were able to figure out how to hire this guy who's saying 2 plus 2 is 3 because they are understanding what to do with the 1. Who are these organizations who are actually figuring out that? They say most of these organizations are the IT, artificial intelligence, advanced tech companies. Why? Because they were able to go and convert all their operation into advanced tech except their accountant. The accountant is the only one who says, no, we don't want this advanced tech. We want to do it in the old way. We want to understand how to manipulate the books and records. If you go and you decide to work for one of these organizations, they ask you a very simple question. They say, sir, what is 1 plus 1? He says 2. No, they are not interested in hiring. They ask you, what is 1 plus 1? You say it's 5. No, they don't want to hire you. They will ask you, what is 1 plus 1? You say, how much you want it to be. Aha, this is the guy that I want to hire. A guy who is willing to manipulate the whole fact, is willing to be the joker, to be able to place him anywhere to replace wherever we need, to change the game so we are always winning. Joker is the winning card. Joker is the ability for you to go and manipulate and always win. Because you can be wherever you want, you can change anything you want. That's the game. Now, this is the first group that they are avoiding paying taxes. These are the rich. Let's discuss another group. More interesting group. If you think about it, why we implemented taxes from the beginning? In UAE, they said, we need to implement tax not only because we want to actually go and take 5% over these goods and services, but for a very important reason. We want to understand in UAE how to regulate businesses. The meaning, if you are a business and you are operating in a legal way, you charge taxes so government can do business with you, private sector can do business with you. If you are a business in UAE and you don't have a license, can you get a VAT code? No. So if you can't get a VAT code, that means some organization, they will not be able to operate with you because actually you can't issue a VAT invoice. Even you are working under the ground in the black market running businesses. And it's not only in UAE, all over the world. They discovered that all over the world, there's something very interesting. There's a big black market, which is all these individuals who are working in the country without visa, who are operating businesses in the country and they are selling and buying without trade license, who are actually operating businesses and they are getting shops and they are running operation without having the proper approval from the government, which is completely, from our point of view, it's illegal. Why? Imagine you are a hotel operating here. If you are a hotel, you have to pay taxes to the government, right? For different things. Now imagine the government is not getting all 12, 16%. So the government is losing taxes. Not only that, if you are operating in US and you are not incorporated as a corporation, but you are making money and you are not reporting your income, so the government is getting 0. You are not paying the 35%. So we discussed these billionaires, but we forgot something very important. We forgot to speak about these guys, the black market, the underground market. What we call it, the informal market. They are operating under the ground. How big is that market? They did a recent research and they say currently more than 1.8 billion individuals are working in this market. Can you imagine? 1.8 billion individuals operating in the black market, underground market, informal market, where they are selling goods and services without having the license, the approval, the registration. Go in the street, what you see? You see a guy standing on the traffic light and saying, would you like to buy some water? It's hot, would you like to buy some water? Is this operation legal? Is he charging VAT? No. Is he actually getting the trade license to do it? No. He got visa to work here? No. And this is where we need to understand, is this informal economy is actually damaging our business? Because he can afford to sell it in the street for 1 dirham, and for me, I'm selling it in the store for 2 dirham because first, I have to charge VAT on it. Second, I have to pay for the rent. Third, I have to pay for the registration and regulation. And maybe I need to pay income on my tax on my income. And this is where we need to look at this informal economy. And you can see in UAE, they were so smart in understanding how can we regulate the informal economy. By doing what? By doing very essential things. They said, we don't want to go and find these individuals and take legal action against them. We want them to come to the government, and if they are actually operating illegally, we are gonna give them what exemption. They can come, and we will waiver the charges on them, and they will be able to actually leave the country. They will be actually be able to go back, or they will be able to adjust their status. So in that case, they can open licenses, they can have bank accounts, they can have employment, and they can work legally in the country, rather than having all these individuals are actually what? Operating under the ground. How can we as a country regulate not only the billion of dollars, but regulate the hundreds of thousands of individuals working in the underground market? Because they discover something very interesting. The underground movement will generate more money, and they are willing to pay taxes. So why don't we look at these guys? Look at this interesting statistics. This statistic will show you this is what we call the shadow economy. They say this is representing the percentages of the GDP that countries are losing for this underground black market. The meaning these guys are operating and they pay zero taxes. They pay zero taxes on everything. VAT, income, revenue, regulation, registration, nothing. You can see in Greece, 21% of the GDP is gone to this black market. You can see, in Spain, in Norway, in Japan, unbelievable amount. It's massive. Even if you look at the US, 5% of the GDP is going to black market. Individuals who are doing business with no registration. Underground market. Very interesting. Look at this underground market. And these guys, they have massive amount. How can we regulate them? Make sure they are actually contributing to the economy. Now what happened? All of us, we were speaking about tax fraud for so many years, but no one actually understood how this process is happening. Until one day, something very interesting happened. A big leak happened, we call it Panama Papers. And what happened with Panama Papers? All these financial information, all these structures for organization actually was published for everyone to see by a guy. And he actually was able to leak more than 2.6 terabytes, more than 11.5 million documents related to more than 214,000 offshore accounts to big major organizations all over the world. Very sensitive information will show exactly how much tax they were avoiding, how much tax they were actually restructuring, and all these deals and all these legal documents, how they are doing. One guy, his name John Doe, he was able to attack a very large and famous law firm in Panama, and they were able to steal all this information and provide it to journalists. And journalists, they came from all over the world to be able to go over it and identify what is the fraud that is happening. How this person is doing this, how this person is doing that. They say, how come that this organization have an offshore account in Switzerland, moving the money there and then moving the money here and moving the money there? So in that way, rather than they should pay 30% tax, they are doing 1% tax. But the question is not here. The question, you can ask questions day and night. The answer is, look at what is the answer. Can they have offshore account or not? Is it legal or it's not legal? They say, is it okay for you to have an offshore account? What do you think? What do you think the answer? If you are operating in Dubai and you would like to have an offshore account in Switzerland, or you would like to have an offshore account in Germany, and you open an account in Switzerland and Germany, or you are operating, for example, in Nigeria and you would like to have an account in UK, is it illegal for you to have that account? What do you think? Yes or no?
Yes and no, depending on the country.
Yes or no? They say it's very interesting. They say in most of the countries, it's not illegal to have offshore accounts. Even better to have offshore accounts. Why? You don't want to have all your money in one basket. Because if you have all your money in one country, and maybe in one currency, and something happened to that currency, or something happened to that country, maybe you are going to lose. So many of these guys who are rich, or so many of these organizations that are operating in an international scale, they have different accounts in different countries. It's okay. The main idea, are you creating that offshore account for the main purpose of just shifting your money? Look at this word, shifting the profit, avoiding paying taxes, or you are doing it just because it will make financial sense? That's always the answer. If it's because you are trying to manipulate and doesn't make sense, maybe you are doing tax fraud. If it's because of any other business reason that is legitimate, we can say it's okay. Or if it's under the law in these countries, you can operate in this way, no one will ask you questions. It's okay for you to take advantage of this operation. The meaning of that, if you go to some countries all over the world, countries will say, if you come and incorporate your business in our country, we will give you the permission for you to open an offshore account and move all your profit there. So you don't have to pay taxes in our country. Don't worry. But please incorporate with us. Have your head office here. Hire the employees. Make the economy work. So these are the countries who are allowing legally organizations, individuals, to have offshore accounts, and it's completely legal. They give them the permission to do that. Once the permission is granted, it's okay. So you can go and move all this money to these offshore accounts where you are paying maybe zero taxes on it. Now the question that is interesting for you to ask, okay, if you can open an offshore account, how much of this organization all over the world are moving money to this offshore account? Is the amount is massive? Should we be concerned about? Look what they say. How much is that amount? What do you think? How much do you think the amount? How much money individuals are moving to offshore? How much? Give me a number.
600 billion?
He said 600 billion. How much? Give me number. Trillion. Look at the number. 7.6 trillion is moving. Oh my God. Unbelievable, right? Yes. So you can imagine all this money is moving, and most of this money that is moving moves using completely the legitimate way that they did using tax planning. And no one can come and ask questions because they are in countries where the countries they said, we allow you to do this as long as you operate in our countries and for all rules and regulations. So this is when we come to tax fraud, it's not black and white. It depends on the color of the regulations in every country you are operating, which is interesting. And sometimes a person will say, but that's not fair. It's not about fair or it's not fair. It's about the regulations and what kind of special deal you can have as big major organization if you would like to incorporate in our country. And because of these special deals, some of the banks, one of the biggest banks in Spain, that the bank is a Spanish bank. It's incorporated in Spain. They moved their operation to UK They still have their branches in Spain, they're still operating in Spain, but they moved their head operation to UK just so they can channel all the money from Spain to UK and avoid paying taxes. So imagine, a Spanish bank is actually incorporated in UK just to be able to do this structure. It's interesting. So now the question, this 7.6 trillion, where it's going? In which country they are opening these offshore accounts? Look how interesting. They say 2.3 trillion is going to Switzerland. So Switzerland is not only famous with their chocolate and their watches, it's also famous with their, all these banks. They are opening all these special accounts. And in most of these accounts, the actual person, he is not opening the account under his name, under someone else's name, which is interesting. Look at the other country, Hong Kong, Singapore, United States. These are the countries where all the money is actually channeled there, where these guys are opening offshore accounts. Are they following the regulation? Is everything is okay? Again, as long as they are not violating any of the regulations and where they operate, they are doing this with the law. Tax planning, it's not tax evasion. Now let's discuss a very interesting product. They say Apple is one of the most innovative companies and their engineers are rewarded because they come up with the most innovative technology. But I think we should not only reward these engineers, we need to reward also the accountants at Apple because they created a very interesting product called iAvoid. And this is exactly how much the real taxes that Apple should pay, and this is how much actually is paid. Look how interesting. Because when you are buying a product in US, you are buying the product in US from an American company. You are thinking it's an American company, but actually it's not. Because Apple in US is owned by another company in another country. So rather than Apple paying to the US government 35% of their income, the actual income will go to another country where in that country they have to pay around 12%. But also they are not paying the 12% in that country because that company in that country is owned by another company in another country where they have to pay less than 5%. But also they are not paying in that country because that company is owned by another company in another country, they have to pay around 1%. So they end up paying around 1%. That's the story how to go, which is interesting. So at the end of the day, the products are produced in China, they are shipped in US, they are sold in US, but the actual income is moved all over the world until it will go somewhere where Apple will reduce the income so much that need to be actually taxed, which is very interesting. Now we see this scheme can be done not only with income, it can be done with everything. It can be done with what we call sales tax. It can be done with income tax. So look at this technique called transfer pricing. Transfer pricing is a very old technique that's done all over the world for me to avoid paying taxes. What's the meaning of transfer pricing? Think about it like this. Think about it in a way that we are actually producing a product in China and we are shipping this product to actually, let's say, a country in Europe, and then we are moving this product to US. Now we calculate everything and we want to understand how the process will go. So we say, for example, in China we have to pay a certain amount of tax. Let's say this amount is 10%. In this country in Europe we have to pay tax, but this amount is only 5%. And then we go to US, we have to pay a certain tax with this amount is 15%. So now for me, as a tax consultant, I need to advise the organization how they can reduce the amount of tax they have to pay. So what I will tell them, what about you produce it in China? How much is the cost for producing it in China? They say it's about $10. So you actually move the product from China to the country in Europe, but you don't make any profit. So you just charge the company in Europe $10. So how much income we made in China? 0. So we don't have to pay the 10% income. Done. Now in Europe, we only pay 5%. So now how much we need to move this product to actually US, for example? Well, we need to move it with the way we make the maximum amount. So let's ask them in US, how much you sell the product in US? They say in US we sell it for $200. Easy. We will sell the product from this country in Europe to US for $200. So we will pay, 5% on this 190 income. But when it will arrive to US, it will arrive for only $200, and we sell it for $200 because we pay $200 for this branch in where? In Europe. So we pay zero in US, zero in China, and all the tax is actually paid here in this country. This is the game that we play to shift our from one country to another. Transfer price. Very interesting technique. So we discussed so far how billionaires are actually avoiding paying taxes by understanding how to do tax planning. We discussed how individuals who are working in the black market are playing the game to actually operate without regulations to avoid paying taxes. We discussed how major organizations, they understood how to do the right structuring to do it legally. Now what we are going to be discussing about, we are going to be discussing about one of the largest economy in the world. What is the largest economy in the world? Which is what we call it fake products. Currently, you have something called 3D printers. You want to have any product you want to create in the world, you just get the design and you don't need anymore to manufacture that product or move that product from one country to another. You want to create fake bags here, you just buy the printer and you print that fake bag and you do it. Because if you are going to send fake products from China to UAE, what will happen? Dubai Customs, they are so good. They are going to identify it and they are going to stop it. So no need. We buy the 3D printer and we print it here. Easy. Simple. So in the old days, when they want to move guns, it's hard for them to move guns. Today, they just get the design of the guns and they will print the guns and then they will have unlimited bullets. They don't need to buy bullets anymore. So we call this is the industry where they are creating fake products. This gun is not an actual original gun. It's a copy of the original gun. Sometimes it will work if it's an actual copy, the meaning that you are taking an actual design and you are printing it with all the specifications. Sometimes it will not work. It will be fake products. Like all these fake products that here we are capturing in UAE, right? You heard in the news, hundreds of millions of these products we are capturing, right? Now, how big is this industry? Someone will say, yeah, how big is this industry? Imagine they say this industry accounting now, we have all over the world more than 2.3 trillion fake products being traded. 2.3 trillion fake products. These guys are selling and buying. Now remember, because these are fake products, are they charging VAT for it? They don't charge anything. Are they actually operating legally? No. So the same thing, these guys are also avoiding paying taxes, also tricking the system. But the interesting thing about them, that they are making unbelievable amount of profit, because if you are a very famous brand, you spend so much money on marketing. For them, they are using your name and they are selling the product, and sometimes they are making 700, 800% profit on that product, which is very interesting. These guys, they understand how to make money. And this is the economy they are operating in it. It's the fake product economy. This market, is it affecting us in one way or another? Yes, it's affecting us. Why? If you buy the original product, compare buying the fake product, is this bad thing or not? Now let's look at it from different perspective. Big major corporations are not complaining. Weird. These big major corporations, they are not complaining that someone taking their brands and creating millions of it and selling it in the street for 50%, 20%, 10% of the actual value? No. And why is that? They said something very simple. We are a luxury brand. The meaning, we don't want anyone to buy our products. So we have certain segment, these guys who are rich, And these guys who are rich, they are not gonna go and buy something fake. They already rich, they have the money. So this is not gonna take our market. However, it's gonna make our brand famous between the poor. And there's a very interesting study. They say, if these guys who are creating fake products, they start imitating the shoes for Nike and for Adidas, but not Puma, Puma will be concerned. They say, how come they are not imitating that? Most likely no one is liking the new design. Otherwise everyone will be imitating that. So that will give them feedback if this product is famous, is getting the hype, it's viral or not. Look how interesting. But it's not going to affect them so much. But who is going to be damaged because of that? We are going to be damaged because of it. Because definitely the fake is not the same like the real. Especially when we are not speaking about consumable goods, we are speaking about something essential for our life. Like what? Medicine. You can go buy the original medicine, it will cost you $300, or you can buy the fake one. It's not the fake one. It's the same ingredients, but I don't know, maybe with less dosage. The same ingredients, maybe but a little bit different formula. It's not done by the actual firm, so in that way it's not approved by the authority. Maybe it will damage me, maybe they will have side effect, maybe they replace certain material, I don't know. So if we look at Cambodia, what happened in Cambodia? In Cambodia, they were actually getting all these special, drugs against mosquitoes. And what happened? Because all these, drugs against mosquitoes, they have low dosage. Mosquitoes start actually fighting and start adapting to this low dosage. So when they got the real one, mosquitoes are already adapting. Because before they were actually not being affected, and they are immune because you are giving them the first doses first. And this is exactly with the damage that happened. You can't expect that we live in an economy where someone is selling fake and we are going to survive. This is not the answer. Now the question remaining that all of us we need to answer is, having these accounts all over the world and operating in this way, maybe it's legal, maybe it's not based on the regulations. But the big question is how they are moving the money around the world, right? You can see here, the countries are, they have China, they have US, and they have Europe, and they have Singapore, and they have Hong Kong. Now we have banking regulations. We have so many checks in the cross-border transfers. We have all central banks monitoring transactions. We have you actually looking at all these payments and electronic transfer. How come they were able to transfer the money with no one saying or asking any questions? Because we are not speaking about transferring $1 million, we are speaking about transferring $1 billion. When you transfer $1 billion, someone will ask you a question. Sorry, what's the reason for the transfer? If you say, oh, I'm just transferring to Mr. Ahmed because I'm giving him a gift. They say, oh, what do we call that? Money laundering. Because you can't go give a gift to someone $1 billion. Oh, I love, here's a gift, I transfer the money to him. They need to understand the purpose. So for that, these organizations, they created a very interesting way to be able to move the money completely legally where no one will ask any question. How? They will move what? They will move billions of dollars. So the way for them to do it is very simple. Imagine like this. This is a scenario where Russia, they are trying to move billions of dollars to Europe legally. So how can they do it? Well, they move the money from Russia to Moldova. Then in Moldova, they created certain shell companies. Then they went to Europe and they created shell companies. And they made the shell companies in Europe sign an agreement with the shell companies in Moldova. And these agreements with certain terms. If the Moldova company violated the terms, they have to pay hundreds of millions fines to the companies in Europe. And definitely because these two companies are agreeing with each other and they are shell, they violated the terms. So now the European company came to Moldova, went to the judge and filed a complaint against the Moldova company. The judge said, okay, you violated the terms. Now you have to pay hundreds of millions. Now the companies in Europe, they have a court order. They have a legal document saying that they are actually taking this money as a fine for doing operation in Moldova, and they are moving the money completely legally to Europe. If you are a bank, and an organization is providing you a court order saying that this is your money because you win a settlement. No one asks any questions. And this is exactly what happened. So our objective as a fraud examiner is very simple. When we go to an organization, we need to use an investigation strategy to be able to sort the playing deck of the cards to find the joker. Because every organization, they have a joker they are using for them, maybe to do fraud, or maybe an individual is hiding a joker behind them. So they can play their cards at the right time and do fraud inside your organization. And if you don't have the system, if you are not using data analytics, if you are not actually doing monitoring, and you are thinking in the old approach, let's think about it in a manual way, in the digital age, this is what's going to happen to you. This is why we need to be able to think in a new world, in a new age, and be able to use our thinking in the right way. And at the end, the joker is always there, and you have to find it. Thank you very much.